Okay. So we have a daily podcast that we're running talking about coronavirus. And mostly what we're doing is we are inviting medical professionals to join this call at 6:30 p.m. Zoom meeting, and folks dial in, folks ask questions. So just trying to keep everybody informed and trying to get the relevant data points from the experts. So we take a break over the weekend, but Monday evening we already have a speaker lined up, and we'll be talking specifically about social isolation and why it's imperative for the youth to ensure that they are uh, they are taking certain precautions. And so this is our daily noon call, and we have been having this calls, I would say, since the last Sunday. So it's been a few days. And we essentially, the purpose of the call is to onboard some of our volunteers who are signing up. The coronavirus page that we have created has a tremendous amount of hits happening today, and a lot of new people signing up pretty much daily. And what we do is, excuse me, we give them an opportunity to get trained, ask questions, and then go out and help our neighbors. And it says paid for by Kumar for Congress 2020 because we are running this program underneath my campaign team, even though we are explicitly not asking for support and vote at this point of time. And we are currently on the ballot on November 3rd, 2020. But what we are doing right now is to also grab certain policy perspectives from our seniors or whoever else as we are engaging with this. And also we are bolstering our healthcare agenda. Healthcare has been a huge component of my agenda in this run, and we are actually bolstering some of our policy ideas with respect to that by engaging on this. So this NPPT falls under the campaign, because we are also engaging campaign resources to conduct some of our activities as part of this. So we did this this one is, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the backdrop and problem statement. And I think right when the school shut down, or even prior to that, a lot of parents were very stressed out that my child is going to school, and is there a way we can we can sort of get them out of school? When will the school district announce that our students are no longer required to attend schools? So they were very, very anxious, and this anxiety has been building up daily. And even on social media, I see a lot of responses that, oh my God, I wish I had not seen this, because it's like I'm getting really stressed out with all these types of narratives that have been talked about today. And what we realized was there's a good opportunity for us to help. And we can play the game of finger pointing, and I never quite enjoy that. But how can we roll up our sleeves and conduct a variety of activities where we can help each other? And in fact, what it does for our neighbors is also sort of is a good distraction for them. Instead of sitting and brooding all day long, now you're spending time in engaging on a very specific activity. So the program that we launched is keeping a lot of people very busy with what they are seeking to do. So the objective is to basically help each of us partner and essentially provide a certain level of offering for our neighborhood, for our immediate neighbors. But also, we are calling people across different cities. So the spread of this is pretty much in a major portion of Silicon Valley right now. There are volunteers who have signed up, and some folks are helping their immediate neighbors. Some of them are actually calling seniors all across in different cities, trying to identify how they need help. And then also we are engaging with other resources to figure out how we can help. The small businesses are hurting big time. And so we are currently trying to host a seminar by Fiona Ma's office. Fiona Ma is the California State Treasurer. And so I've contacted her staff members, and we are trying to arrange a seminar for our small businesses. They're all looking for bailouts, because they have to let go of staff members, which they're not very keen for, and they're looking for like loan packages and things like that. So there is obviously a huge amount of economic turmoil that we are seeing, and so when people are reaching out and expressing their concern, then it gives all of us an opportunity to act. Like somebody reached out about an eviction notice, and so we are currently our sheriff, city of Saratoga outsources our law enforcement to the Santa Clara County Sheriff, and our sheriff has basically broadcast that they are not going to enforce any eviction notices right now in this time period. So when people come up with a specific problem, it gives us an opportunity to go out and figure out solutions, and that essentially is expanding out the NPPT objectives as we speak. Daily there are new things coming to fore. Okay, so here is the agenda. We'll talk a little bit about the objective of this. We already talked about that, and we'll talk about some of the immediate action items and how exactly we are building this program. So this is the coronavirus page. Hopefully all of you have gone through that page, and we have a few more people join in. So let's see, Priya has joined in. Priya is also part of our team. She works in the high tech. And Pankaj.
Yeah. Hi there. Hi, this is Pankaj. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So let me introduce myself. I was doing it, but looks like my voice was not going through before. So actually, I live in Saratoga on Dundee Avenue, and we have been here for about 6 years now. I did sign up last week, but as we all know, the new normal has changed for us at work, and I just got very busy and just couldn't really join or participate in any of these. So this is actually my first video conference. So yes, I certainly would like to help out my neighbor, particularly elderly, who don't have anyone to help them and support. And if there is anything I can do for them, I would love to help out.
Beautiful. And Anjali has been trying to join this call for a few days, and looks like Anjali may not be able to. She doesn't have an audio connection. But Anjali, hopefully you're able to hear it, and let us know if you have any questions after the call as well. Okay, so this is a landing page with the coronavirus information that we have actually launched. And let me just quickly show you what we have in here. Okay, so this page is getting the most hits on our website, and we have sort of like an index set up on the top, like a main menu, and you can click on information, and then we have the official links to the Santa Clara County and all that. And then this is the online screening, which Google has rolled out. And it didn't get a whole lot of good reviews last week, but hopefully it'll get better. And then the coronavirus newsletter, I don't know if you have seen it, but now this is embedded, and you can click on any link to go down and read that item.
Yeah, just some feedback, Rishi, while you're this page, I read it this morning. It's really helpful. A lot of good stuff here.
Oh, great. Thank you, Dan. And Anika is our intern, and she's working on this page on a regular basis. She'll be updating this page almost daily. And as soon as we have a reasonable amount of content, we will send it out in an email format with all these hyperlinks, which is what we did yesterday. Okay, so let's keep going. So this is our landing page. This is our newsletter. And so this is a summary of some of our current activities, and which doesn't include everything. I just included a snapshot. So we are running panel discussions with healthcare professionals. The videos are on YouTube and also part of the newsletter. And we have lots of great stories where neighbors are helping neighbors. In fact, the story from Titus was one of our neighbors was sick, and she was actively helping people. And then she reached out, and we figured out someone else on the street who could help one of their senior neighbors. So there are new people jumping in when somebody's not able to, there was from the Congress Springs neighborhood, somebody reached out and said, hey, I need help. And, obviously my wife and I, we are doing all we can, but sometimes it's a little easier for me to identify someone from that neighborhood. And then I reached out to Mickey. Mickey jumped in and he basically went out, did groceries, and he was so good. He said, look, he was exchanging an email with the neighbor, and she had mentioned that she has a lot of seniors around her. And he said, well, why don't you give me a combined list and I'll go and do the groceries for everybody, So this is the kind of help that neighbors are providing neighbors. And it's very, very heartwarming to see that, And we are getting quite a few great emails back as feedback that, I really appreciated the help that we got. And so it's good. I think we are doing something. And truly speaking, when we first started, we had no idea in terms of how we would progress or what exactly we would do. But what we have done is, when you look at the Neighborhood Watch program that we ran in Saratoga, it was a good crime fighting tool. Before we got started, we had like 4 Neighborhood Watch programs. Today, we have over 70 Neighborhood Watch programs. And essentially, it was running hundreds of neighborhood meetings, bringing neighbors together to talk about best practices and identifying neighborhood leaders from each of these neighborhoods. And that framework was very successful in terms of bringing neighbors together and allowing them to connect, communicate, and collaborate. And essentially, they started formulating some new processes for their own neighborhoods, launching Google Groups or having block parties or putting cameras for the neighborhoods. And, we were always there in the background to offer help. Some of my interns would actually just help the neighbors with just the knickknacks of the neighborhood Google group, for example, or some of them would get involved with the camera effort, putting cameras at the entrance, ingress and egress point of the neighborhoods. So it became like a close collaboration where neighbors started getting to know their immediate neighbors and collaborating on these interesting projects, having block parties. So what we realized was, when we went to have these neighborhood meetings, everybody's pretty shy. They haven't met each other. And but once we showed them a way as to how they could get out of a crime situation that we had, rising burglaries, and they quickly came together. There were new leaders that stepped up, and we were able to drop our burglaries by 47% year to year. So we are continuing down that same model of empowering neighbors to take charge. And in this case, all they're doing is helping their own neighbors. But we are very metrics driven, so it's not like we want to do activity for the sake of activity. So by Friday, which was yesterday, I was talking to our team as to what metrics can be defined so that we can see the progression of the help that we are providing. And that way we can also tweak the dials a little bit to make it much more effective. So this is where we want to take this, Now, we have looked at other programs. For example, the very first thing I did before launching this was I looked at the CERT programs. It's CERT, which is Community Emergency Response Team. And this is a certification program offered by the county. And many of our neighborhood safety programs have CERT professionals as part of the neighborhood who have been trained. And it's like a 7-day training, and it's evening program, and then you spend 1 day, and it's a lot of real world experience. They create these situations where you are sort of figuring out what you need to do. And we looked at that and we realized that there was nothing about pandemic. CERT professionals are trained to basically help out with like CPR, or if somebody falls into the pool, to rescue them, things like that. But they are not really trained with a pandemic like this. So I presume the CERT program will expand out and grow from that. But in the interim, what we said was, let's launch something to see how neighbors can help neighbors. And it's obviously on the foundation of the Neighborhood Safety Watch program and the CERT program we have. So part of my op-ed piece, one of the recommendations I had made was to roll out this program nationally, just like we did the Neighborhood Safety Watch program. Neighborhood Safety Watch was rolled out in 1970s with inner city crime growing, and it has proven to be very, very effective. Now, a pandemic, we are seeing for the very first time since 1918 of a massive scale like this. And so it's imperative that we roll out a national program that neighborhoods can adopt. So that's important. and also from a standpoint of what I see with the system in the American healthcare with hospitals. It's currently broken. We don't have masks. We don't have this. We don't have that. And we talk about preparedness of some scale. And I truly believe, in fact, yesterday it became a little controversial having two medical professionals on the call. And one of them was quite insistent that no, our hospital is very well prepared. But the story is pretty stark in terms of not having mask or not having medication. It's like really, I don't think so we are prepared. And so there's an opportunity for us to do better. And so that was my recommendation as part of the op-ed piece that we had written a couple of weeks back. And like I said, we are currently doing these video podcast, the newsletter, and and also we are working like I talked about. We are working with. In fact, somebody reached out and said, Rishi, April 10th is the deadline for the property tax. How can we? Is it going to be postponed now that our taxes are postponed out? So I reached out to Larry Stone's office, trying to get feedback, and they basically had no idea. So the staff reached out right away. They said, Rishi, we don't have an idea right now, but we'll get back to you by Monday or Tuesday. So Larry Stone, our county assessor, has to make a decision on that. The April 10th deadline is coming up pretty soon. And will they postpone it? I don't know it yet. But so this is the level of activities that is going on. People are reaching out with new sets of challenges. And what we are trying to do is, well, let's figure it out for you, right? All we can do is ask the question and see if we can provide you some help. Okay. So, and many success stories, like we already talked about some of the success stories that we have seen so far. So here is, what we'll do to get started. Each of you are joining this call because you would like to be of help, to help your neighbors. But how do we get started? Now, we have different scales, like, there is some complexity in terms of how we can help our neighbors. But what we have done is we have provided you a very simple first step to get engaged. And so we'll talk about 4 different options that we're offering. But I'll take a pause before we get to that next phase of our presentation. See if you have any questions, if I can answer any questions for you. Okay, let's keep going. So essentially, here is option 1. And this is what I did. This was probably almost 10 days back. I posted on Nextdoor and in our neighborhood email group that, hey, there's a recommendation that our senior population should stay hunkered down at home. Now, can we help you? Can I be of any help at all? And it's a very simple posting, which so basically, here is a suggested verbiage. Are you sheltered in place and need help? And coronavirus is highly infectious. Please email me or call me. And so I included my cell phone number when I posted it to my neighborhood. And obviously they have my email. But also what we did was, some of our seniors are off the grid. They are not checking emails, and they may not be internet savvy. They may not be on Nextdoor. So we also drop flyers. So let's look at Nextdoor. Nextdoor has an application called Help Map. Now, one of the founders of Nextdoor is connected to me. And so I had made a suggestion that, look, I made a posting of, I sent out an email update to Nextdoor asking neighbors if they needed help. But just like you have a treat map for Christmas time where neighbors can identify neighborhoods with a good Christmas lighting that they can go out and check out, or that is the cheer map. And then we have the treat map, which is during Halloween for families to identify other neighbors who would like to welcome trick-or-treating. So they have already rolled out application and said, why not a help map? I call it the senior help map. And so this is what they have rolled out. Now, somebody on yesterday's call mentioned that that there is a problem with this because there are scamsters who are running amok and they might exploit our seniors. So that is something I worry about. And that feedback we have provided to Nextdoor to see how we can prevent that. But at this point, we can't overanalyze, we cannot overthink. We are just looking to take some action. So this is the, and I would highly recommend you to try it if you can. You can go out and pin yourself as somebody who's able to help. And then seniors similarly will be, I think this is only one way. Like we can put a pin on the map saying that I can help. and then somebody can contact you. Your next door neighbors can contact you.
Yes, Rishi, I can confirm that. That's the way it works.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Shiv. Okay. And yeah, because I was trying to see, where are the seniors putting themselves on the map, and I didn't see anything. Okay, so that's probably a safe way for us to prevent scamsters. But if a senior calls somebody who's trying to scam, then they can get trapped anyway, right? So I think that is, and I don't know what Nextdoor can do with that, but let's figure out. I mean, they have been in this business for a long time. The option 2 is what I was doing was printing and dropping it off with my neighbors, specifically folks who are off the grid. Now, this means like going to every home and dropping off this flyer. Now, if you go to rishikumar.com/coronavirus and click on download, you'll be able to download this PDF document, print it at home. And in fact, certain neighbors said, Rishi, I don't have a printer. So we actually printed out many copies of this, and we sent it over to them. And they came by and picked it up, or sometimes we went and dropped it out at their homes. So it's a very simple form. You fill in your name, where do you live, and your phone number, and you're leaving it by your neighbor's home. Now, let's say there are 30 homes on the street, you're dropping off flyers at every home. So it's not very productive because not everybody needs help, but this is better than nothing else. And it's a very simplistic model. So Ivan Kuhn, who lives pretty close to Saratoga High School, he reached out. He had a team of 15 volunteers from his neighborhood. They were all wanting to help. And we gave them other options like option 3 and option 4. They weren't too excited with that. They're like, Rishi, this is too complicated. Can you simplify this? So I said, why don't you just print this out, this option 2, and go drop off with your neighbors? And they were quite happy with that. They're like, okay, that's exactly what we'll do. So they went around dropping flyers into every home in their neighborhood, which is also pretty good. It's not the most optimal route, but it's a good way for us to figure out, which neighbor needs help. Do's and don'ts as you're dropping the flyers. Anyone can be a carrier because we don't quite know, how this is playing out. So please disinfect your hand and wear gloves. Do not knock on the door or ring the doorbell because you really don't want to engage in a conversation. Just leave the flyer by the door. And many times our volunteers call the neighbor, and as they are standing by the curb and say, I left something by your door, especially if they have picked up a grocery bag or medication, they call them, and the neighbor will come outside, pick up the grocery bag, and they tell them to wait. They come out with a check, they leave it under the mat, and the volunteer goes and picks up the check. So we are trying to make sure that we don't initiate contact with our neighbors. And it's also illegal to touch a neighbor's mailbox without permission. So just be cognizant of that. Okay, so what happened? Okay, so this is option 3, is to call seniors to check on them. And we currently are using a software called NGP, which has the names and contacts of our seniors, folks who are 65 plus. Now, this is a little bit more optimal because now you're actually calling and checking on seniors. So we have a call script. We're not seeking support for my run in any shape or form. Feedback on policy agenda, as it pertains to healthcare or senior programs, those are good. But the script is defined. And so, it's the software system that we use, which is not too complicated. So once you are authorized into the software, once you have an ID, you will pick the virtual phone bank as an option. And we have created a very specific phone group, calling group called Senior Citizens Corona Outreach. And when you click on the next button, you will actually see this screen. So now you see that we have a name, we have taken out the phone number information, but you essentially now can use your phone, your home phone, your cell phone to call Ambrosia and have a conversation. And typically you see 4 tabs, like we see Kenneth, Holger, Andrea, they're all part of the same household, but only 1 or 2 of them might be seniors. When you call, you're basically asking for and when you click on any of those 2 tabs, they all may have the same phone number, but you will see that, okay, only Holger and Andrea are seniors. And so you can ask for them and have a conversation to see, and no pressure. Basically, you're saying that, hey, I'm just calling to check in on you, and see if there's anything we can help with. I'm calling from the Kumar for Congress. And some of them, they are afraid of scamsters, so they might hang up, which is perfectly okay. And some of them will say, thank you for checking on me. So we have gotten all sorts of different responses from people, but we are actively calling people. Okay, and this is option 4, which is, what we provide you is a turf right next to your home where you can walk and knock. So Priya is basically, she's on the call, and she basically takes care of this. Once we figure out where you live, she creates a little turf map for you that you can download on your phone, and then you can go walking or driving around your neighborhood, just dropping flyers. See the circles? You're essentially going from one street to the next, and you're only dropping flyers at your neighbors who are 65 plus. So this is also a pretty optimal way of reaching out to your neighbors. So these are essentially the 4 options. And how can you or your neighbor request help? As part of the script, what we have is, once we identify that a neighbor needs help, folks can email us or they can call us. That here is the neighbor, the phone number, their address, and this is the help they need. So, and sometimes they send us a long grocery list that, hey, the neighbor needs this. Can you please see how you can provide this over to them, like tomorrow, day after tomorrow? And then we have been quite successful so far in identifying a volunteer who lives right next to their home, and we have been able to help them with that. And call to action is, we would love to have all of you post this. In Saratoga, probably not needed, but if you live in a different city, you can post this on Nextdoor, inviting other volunteers to join us, because this has been pretty effective for us in terms of how we are helping out our neighbors, and we would like to see how we can grow this. We have a couple hundred volunteers who have signed up, and my gut is, by the time we are done, we'll have many more than this, because we are getting signups pretty much daily on this. Social media activity, we are constantly, propagating the right type of information for people. And that gets picked up by Anika. She puts it in the newsletter. And here is the Google Do the 5. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. And we would like to see, as to, let's see, which option would work the best for you. And then we'll provide you some next steps based upon the option that appeals to you the most. So option 1, option 2, maybe we need a summary table at the very end. But yeah, so let me just make a note of that. I think it'll be a good idea to put a summary table. So questions, anybody?
So I think this is Pankaj. I think for me, pinning the map might be a good one. So I can actually try that one and pin my location so that people who are looking for it, they can find me.
Okay. Okay. So Nextdoor is a good option. Then you can essentially go to Nextdoor, and you can pin yourself on the map, and then hopefully somebody will reach out to you.
Yeah. Now I do have a question. So Rishi, I was watching on the TV, and it looks like Berkeley, Oakland, they all have created some kind of a donation funds to help local businesses. Are we doing anything similar for Saratoga or the neighboring city here?
Yes, we are currently in the process. There are 2 things we are doing is basically helping out small business. And then also we are doing a donation drive, because for the hospitals, they need stuff. So those are 2 activities we are currently working on.
Okay. But the donation drive for the hospital is you are collecting masks and things like that, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But not something about like a dollar donations or money donations for local restaurants or businesses which are actually shut down because of the coronavirus.
Yes. So there are 2 aspects of this. One is we are encouraging people to go out and buy gift certificates from these businesses, from restaurants. And that way, you're sort of giving them cash is also an option. But, I think if we purchase gift certificates, that might be a little bit of a better option. And also we are trying to create like bailout packages, talking to the state of California to figure out, what kind of packages they're going to roll out. I'm pretty sure they're working on it right now. So the idea is to provide a 0 interest loan to them, and essentially that will get them through like 60 days, and they can then keep their employees and not have to get rid of or fire everybody. So I think we are exploring all sorts of different options.
Okay, makes sense.
And okay, so let's keep going. So Pankaj would like to follow on the, pursue the Nextdoor option. How about Dan? Dan, which option do you prefer?
Well, I'm still mulling them over, but I think the map would be helpful. One thought that occurred to me was if people have to run to the store to get something like one item, thinking of setting up like a center, like you said, collecting masks. Is there thoughts about maybe putting canned goods or something that you need? You're baking something and you need some, I don't know, baking powder or baking soda or something. Rather than run to the store, we could have a central location where people could go or have it delivered to them or reach out to take it over to their house.
Yep, good point. Yeah, let's figure out how we can do that.
Rishi, this is Shiv here. I think Anjali's now got her audio on.
Okay, great. Anjali,
Yes.
Anjali, go ahead. Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself, Anjali?
Guys, this is Anjali here. So, as I was mentioning, Rishi, I have moved to US 3 months before from India. So, we were still settling in, and this thing has come up. But yes, I am a bit into, like kind of social service, not really social service. But yes, I have connected with lots of people here. I have my own group. So that's the reason I contacted Rishi to reach out to people and to help people during this time. So let me know, how do you want me to proceed with it?
Okay. So Anjali, I think it would be fabulous if you're able to make some phone calls. You and I, we have discussed this. So
Yes.
we have probably created an ID for you also, right? Have you received an email from Target Smart?
No, I haven't.
Okay, great. So we'll get you set up with that. How about Anika? Anika, would you like to make phone calls?
Sure.
Okay. And Dan, we'll sort of wait to hear back from Dan. Pankaj, Priya is already calling, and Shiv is already okay. So I think what we'll do is, as an action item from this call, is we'll create Target Smart IDs for Anjali and Anika to help them call our seniors. And Dan, let us know if you need help with anything. And thank you so much all for joining the call. Any final questions before we call it a wrap?
So I kind of joined the call in the between. I wanted to understand, I was going through the presentation. Is there something where we can post in our apartments where even people can reach out to me if they wish to?
Yes. So which means we need to create a flyer for this.
Yes, or probably over the mails or over the WhatsApp group, if we can, kind of post something where they know that this is the, point of contact for so-and-so thing.
Yes.
So again, it makes it easier.
Yes. So here's the verbiage. I'll email it to you, Anjali.
Mm-hmm.
And here is you can take this, copy paste, and send it on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
The short enough verbiage. We'll sort of trim it down even further for WhatsApp. And
I'll do that.
You don't need a flyer. I think a verbiage is good enough.
Yeah. This is good enough. Yeah.
Super. I will send it to you.
Done.
Any other questions? So this video is actually will replace the video that we had created on the launch day, because we have actually added quite a few components to our offering. So this video will go out and replace our training video. And so Anjali, you can also watch this video, which will be posted online at rishikumar.com/coronavirus, and you can watch it right from the very beginning. That will provide you perspective.
Fine.